Hello, everyone. Welcome to Random Encounter 257 or 257. My name is Jono Logan, and this is the last random of 2022, which is kind of mind-blowing. Last year, I guess we had 3 episodes in December, but hey, because of the way the months change shape, we only have 2 this month. So yeah, we'll be back in January, which is a horrifying statement to say out loud. But this being the last episode of 2022 means that it is time for our annual look ahead at 2023 episode. And as this episode is entirely a look ahead at the things to come, I thought it might be appropriate if we get on some fresh-faced staff members making their first appearance on Random Encounter. So joining us today are Tom.
Hi there.
Tin.
Hi.
Sam.
Hello.
And some old guy named Zach is here.
Yeah, hi.
Yeah, we're old. I was talking to Mike earlier today, and he's like, "You guys have been with the site for 4 years."
Yeah, we started like almost it was the same month, right? So yeah,
I think we were part of the same hiring drive.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like I said, this is going to be the 35 most anticipated games of 2023, and these episodes usually run pretty damn long. Like almost always. Like last year's ran for 2 hours. So we're going to see if we can, keep that to a reasonable time this year. Hopefully we have some success. If not, oh well, you get to hear us talk about games, which is always a fun thing. So 35 most anticipated games for 2023. Zach, what was the genesis of this feature? Like you are the one you're the feature manager. So you are organizing all this. So tell us, like, where did this feature come from?
From before my time is the real answer to that question. It's something we've done. I'm not sure how long we don't have access. I guess I have access if I really wanted to try to the old site, but it's been around since you and I started. Mm-hmm. And I one of the things that one thing I did change when I came on was I tried to limit it, because I think the year before I started as features manager, it was like 63 most anticipated games of next year, which is like every RPG that's coming out. And so we tried to limit it a little bit more. We've tried to keep it to 30, but man, there are a lot of releases next year. So we may have gone a bit above 30 and cheated a little bit on a couple of the entries to add more stuff in, but 2023 looks great.
2023 does look great. Hang on, I'm just going to try to find last year's feature. I'm curious. Here it is. 30 most anticipated games. There were so many games that we had to add 5 more games to the list. So let's, before we jump in, I just want to do a quick run through to see our success rate of games that are coming out in 2022. Let's see here. Advanced Wars 1-2 Boot Camp, Reboot Camp. So that was on last year's list. Nope. Let's see what we got here. Dustborn is another one that did not come out last year, but we thought it might. Let's see. Ooh, Elden Ring's got released. Final Fantasy 16. That was an optimistic guess.
It sure was. I knew it at the time, but I was like, I think there's a chance.
There's always a chance. Forspoken, that's coming out next month apparently, but nope. Grand Blue Fantasy Relink, nope. Breath of the Wild 2, I don't even know what that is. Does anyone know what this Breath of the Wild 2 is?
Probably just some small indie game.
Yeah. Let's see here. Oxenfree 2 did not get released this year. I think that might be Sea of Stars, also not last year or this year. Shoot Dreams Elsewhere, but thank God, out of all of them, at least we got Stranger of Paradise: Final Fantasy Origin.
We did have the opportunity to kill chaos this year. It's very exciting.
We killed so much chaos. Oh, Starfield as well. So yeah, that was last year's miss list. These games are obviously going to be on this year's list as well, and next year we get to have the ever fun time of seeing what actually got released in 2023. So let's start off with a game that I just mentioned, which is Advanced Wars 1+2 Reboot Camp. Who knows what the release date is going to be? Is it going to be this year, 2026? According to the Advanced Wars wiki page, it's going to be February 24th, 2023. I can find no sourcing on that. So maybe. I'll start because I actually genuinely... I love Advance Wars. It was one of my favorite series on the Game Boy Advance. I was super, super excited when they announced the remake. I think I had just gotten off Wargroove at that point, and I was like, I could do some more color-coded war. And then, of course, the Ukrainian war happened, and Advance Wars 1+2 got delayed. The problem being, of course, is that the Ukrainian war is continuing. And though other companies are releasing war games and have released war games, Nintendo kind of put themselves in a bind because they were like, we're going to delay this until after it. So this game is really in limbo for the time being. So we are hoping that it will be released in 2023, but who knows?
Yeah, it's one of those things. I mean, and Tom and I were talking about this before recording. It's like it's the bad guys are Russia, right? So like it seems maybe a little insensitive, but given the nature, and I don't really want to get too political here, but given the nature of the war as it stands right now, it doesn't seem to have any end in sight. So do you just sit on it? I think someone mentioned that a shadow drop seems like the most likely candidate for what could happen.
That's what I think will happen. I think there'll be a Nintendo Direct, and they'll be like, Advanced Wars available now.
Yeah. Other than that, I have very little opinion of Advance Wars. It looks fun. I like a tactical game, but I don't have any experience with it personally. So I'm looking forward to maybe getting a chance to check it out, though.
Did anyone else ever play it on the Game Boy Advance or any of the other Advance Wars titles?
So yeah, I sort of sit in between the middle of you and Zach. I played the DS games, but I haven't played these two, so I'm really looking forward to them. And I replayed Wargroup earlier this year, and I was really looking forward to the remakes, but unfortunately haven't arrived just yet.
I have never played one. I do remember the box art.
Yes, is a colorful game.
Similar to Tom, I also played the one in the DS. But I can very vaguely remember some of it already because that was like so many years ago.
Yeah, it's one of those franchises that was, I mean, it was massive in Japan. There's Famicom Wars, Super Famicom Wars, Game Boy Wars, and then Advance Wars, and then it just kind of stopped when it came out on DS. It just vanished. So the fact that this was coming out was super exciting, and then, it didn't. So yeah, I'm pumped about it.
Question is, when is it coming out?
Yeah, who knows? February 24th, apparently. But I would be stunned if that actually was a thing, and that's not just a number. That's not just like some date that someone put on there as a placeholder. It's so funny when I'm going through our reviews right now, because at the end of every year I go through our Trello review board to like clean everything up, and I'm like, wow, so many games are releasing on December 31st at the end of 2022. There's dozens of them. And it's my annual moving all of those games to December 31st, 2023, because that's the release date. I think the thing about release dates is after COVID happened, a lot of companies got real wise about announcing release dates really far in advance because, all of the delays that happened. Yeah. So I think that release date mania has settled down quite a bit in the last 3 years.
I also think I remember back E3 2019 when they shadow dropped the collection of mana, and it's like the buzz that created. And I think they're realizing that, especially with some smaller titles, a shadow drop can be a way of creating buzz in and of itself, which I think is smart too.
Yeah, it's I'm hopeful that this game will be released in the next few months, but if it doesn't, it's sad, but it's understandable.
We'll see it again in the next year. 35 anticipated
35 anticipated games for 2024.
I mean, if we look at Nintendo's history, there's often a January Direct. That could be quite a good time to sort of either shadow drop or just sort of reaffirm a new release date or something like that.
That would be a good time to do that. The funniest thing to me is, let's see here. I was wondering what idiot wrote this last line for last year's piece about Advance Wars 1 and 2. And then I was like, by Jono, Logan. And the last line is, this was in the 2022 one. As a massive fan of the series, I'm happy to give them all the time they need. After all, we've waited 14 years. So what's 5 more months? Great job, jackass.
That's some foreshadowing there, isn't it?
Boy. Okay, well, let's move on to the next game on the list. Incidentally, this feature should be up on RPGFan by the time you see this, and it has write-ups from people all across the staff. So be sure to give this a look. So the next game on the list was actually written up by Sam, and it is Atelier Reza 3, Alchemist of the End and the Secret Key. And this is going to be apparently releasing on February 24th, 2023. So it's going to have some stiff competition from Advance Wars, I guess.
When it came to looking forward to 2023, this is one of the few games that I've been playing all the other entries in the series of, the Atelier series. I love it. So I chose to write for this one. I think of 2023 has a lot of big releases coming up. And this is one of those series that, weirdly enough, I know a lot about. So I'm really looking forward to see what direction Gust goes with this one. I think they've been building on their success a lot in the past few years. The original Atelier Riser was a big up of their game as far as quality goes. You know, they really upped their game with graphics. Have they been using orchestrated soundtracks? I don't know, but this was the first one that was really like, it had a very distinct style compared to the other entries in the series. So this is going to be the last one in the trilogy. So I'm really looking forward to see what Gus decides to finish that trilogy with.
I know nothing about this series except for the fact that I keep making Des review them.
I think it's a fascinating series in that, like, I feel like as a person who hasn't played them, it's interesting to me that, like, they have like a development cycle that, like, I don't know, like rivals Pokemon's, which, you know, we're not here to talk about that. But in terms of how quickly they come out with games and the ways in which, like, the newest games seem to have really upped their game, I think is excellent. And, you know, I'm not really into crafting in RPGs in general, and certainly like a game where I'm mostly doing crafting does not appeal to me. But just like the buzz that Ryza in particular has gotten has made me think like, you know, maybe it's time to give this a shot.
I think it shows a shift in their strategy as far as their releases go as well, because Ryza was the first in the Atelier franchise as a whole to have numbered sequels per Atelier. Like, for example, the Arlen trilogy was Atelier Ravona, Atelier Totori, and Atelier Meruru, and whereas this has been Atelier Ryza 1, 2, 3, and now they're doing that with Atelier Sophie as well. So, you know, they're obviously rethinking a lot of things rather than just the actual mechanics of the games themselves.
I'm personally reminded of how some of the subtitles for all these games sound like Doctor Who episodes from like Tom Baker's 1980s years, like Doctor Who and the Alchemist of the End.
They really do.
Yeah.
They have great subtitles.
Doctor Who and the Grand Phantom. It just, they sound very grand and mysterious.
They like secrets as well in their subtitles for the Ryza. I think the first one was Secret Hideout, was the second one Secret Fairy, and this one is Secret Key. What will we unlock? A TARDIS pan.
That would get me to play it. Yeah, so like I said, I don't really know these games that well. However, I've talked to Des on the show about them in the past, and I've watched a lot of footage from them, and they look really, really cool. There's usually some kind of a time limit attached to it, the game, and like after you beat the game, I guess you like have the other half of the game. Like there's a lot of content that you get to eventually.
Well, they have dropped the time limit mechanics for Ryza. I think they still had them in the last trilogy. So I don't know. Maybe they'll bring that for Ryza 3. I doubt they will. But for fans where that has, well, potential fans, I should say, where that has been sort of a barrier for entry, thinking, oh, I don't like, you know, the time limit constraints, blah, blah, blah. This is a good entry point in the Ryza series because you don't have that. You can enjoy your crafting, going out to fight, etc. And it's, you know, there is no calendar in these. There is still a day and night system.
Oh, yes, of course.
Yeah.
Is anyone else looking forward to playing it? Or trying it, I guess?
I'll be honest, I've never played the series, to be honest.
If like I'm like interested on playing the third one, do I have to like play the first and the second?
I think the story will be a continuation.
Oh, I see. So it's not a standalone.
I think the second one could be seen as standalone from the first one. Like, it used the same characters, but it was in a completely different setting and used completely different themes. It was a different stage of Ryza's life. She was older. So I think you do have a lot to benefit from playing the others in the series. But I also don't think it would be an issue to go into one of the sequels without having played the prior one.
I see.
Yeah, so probably not the best jumping on point, but
no.
I mean, it doesn't need to be because the rest of them are fully available. And the first entry, which was released in 2019, as you say in your write-up, it's considered, which by many series standards is far too recent to be anticipating a part 3 yet here we are. So yeah, it's a lot of these things get released in a very quick time frame.
And the weird thing is they don't seem to reuse that many assets either.
It's nice sometimes when games like that happen because you just get to really, you can get on a flow and it's coming out soon and you can really enjoy it.
It gives you enough time to move on from the last one while still having it fresh in your memory.
Exactly. Well, one game that doesn't have that problem is Baldur's Gate. Because the last title of Baldur's Gate was, let's see here, released in 2000. It was released in 2000. Now, there have been advanced editions released in the early 2010s, and I think that's how a new generation of gamers became familiar with Baldur's Gate, which is it's a D&D campaign setting game. It's considered to be one of the greatest CRPG series in history, and bless them that they're bringing it back. So Baldur's Gate 3 has been in early access for the last 2 years thereabouts. Constantly getting more content added, but finally, it's getting its full release in August of 2023, and I'm actually pretty excited for this, and not generally because of Dungeons and Dragons. I haven't actually played the first 2 games in the series, but the developers are responsible for Divinity Original Sin and Divinity Original Sin 2, which are considered to be the 2 successors of the CRPG genre and 2 of the best RPGs released in the last, decade. So the fact that they're doing Baldur's Gate 3 is super, super exciting.
I don't think many people expected it, to be honest.
No, actually, I think one of the funnier moments from the Game Awards. Oh, by the way, this is we're recording about 2 days after the Game Awards, so it's still very fresh in our mind. And they had a pretty awesome trailer for Baldur's Gate 3. And at the end, they had this big reveal where some guy is inside a mimic and tears his way out of the mimic chest. And it was one of those moments where it's oh my God. But the audience clearly had no idea who he was. So there was scattered clapping and maybe one guy in the back from who played the games in the 1990s going, or the 2000s going, woo! And it was so anticlimactic. I loved it.
I think one of the funniest parts of its marketing campaign is that I'm sure it was heavily marketed towards Google Stadia at first.
Ugh.
We all know how that went, don't we?
Yeah, I wrote the article for the release date, and on the game page it was platforms, Google Stadia. It's not anymore.
Maybe not.
No, but I'm actually quite excited for this. I've never played any of the Baldur's Gate series, but I really enjoyed Divinity Original Sin 2, and I know it's in early access, but I haven't jumped in. But all the previews seem really, really positive, so I'm definitely looking forward to it.
Yeah, and I think it looks excellent. It's going to be isometric like the rest of them, but you are going to be zooming in on characters' faces with proper animations. It looks like a current gen game.
I played the one in the PlayStation 2. I actually don't remember.
Oh, Dark Alliance?
Yep. Yeah, I think that's the one. I mostly played it with my brother. That's always the memory I have whenever we were playing Baldur's Gate. It was more of a fun game playing in multiplayer with people. So
I believe that the Dark Alliance spin-offs were real-time instead of turn-based.
They were, yeah.
Yeah, they were real-time. That's the one I can remember.
Well, I'm pretty excited about this. I think it looks like it's going to be a fantastic CRPG. So yeah, I am pumped. Computer role-playing game, for those who are wondering. We have some JRPG, CRPG, TRPG. Mm-hmm. Yay, all of the modifiers for RPG. Yeah, and that's going to be apparently released in August of 2023. Moving on, we have Coffee Talk, Episode 2, Hibiscus and Butterfly, which will be releasing at some point in 2023. This is our fearless leader, Mike Salvato, loved Coffee Talk. Yeah. Just loves it so much. So he is super, super excited about this. And the game is kind of a sort of a visual novel with, I guess, barista simulator mechanics, where you are a barista in a coffee shop in a parallel reality version of Seattle, where various fantasy creatures also exist, but they are existing in a modern day setting, which I've played a little bit of it, not a ton. As a visual novel, it really hit the spot. It's kind of comforting. You get to know the characters really, really well, as I guess you would if you were a barista in a coffee shop. And it just looks really, really cool.
I can never get disconnect coffee talk from Necro Barista in my head, which I've played Necro Barista, but I love the idea of and there's some other game where I feel like you're also like making cocktails for people, like making drinks for people, talking to them. Just sort of that idea of getting to know people as they come through, and that sort of slice of life notion is appealing to me. I have not played it. I probably won't, but I think it's just like a cool idea, and it's ripe for good storytelling and good writing characters.
Yeah, I think so too. And I mean, one of the key points about this game and its predecessor is the music. Apparently, just really nice, comforting music, really nice, chill music that people could use to study.
Yeah, actually, I haven't played the game either, but it's just like wish listed on my Steam account. But yeah, I'd listen to the music as well from time to time while working.
Yeah, it's that kind of game where it's just you can, if you're working or if you are in an actual coffee shop, not a bad thing to put on your AirPods.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those games that whenever I look at it, I'm like, I really should play the first one, which that was my refrain during the Game Awards. All of these sequels are being announced, and I was like, yeah, the first one's on my Steam wish list. I really need to play it over and over again.
Yeah, too many games, not enough time.
Yeah.
Too many games, not enough time. Well, let's move on to another game, which is coming out at some point in 2023. Incidentally, talking about refrains, some point in 2023 is going to be one you're going to hear a lot in this episode. Like I said, because of the whole, companies don't really want to announce release dates anymore. So we think we're getting them next year. So this is a game called Demon School, and it is a TRPG. So a tactics RPG. It has a mixture of kind of pixel arty, but with like high definition character art kind of thing. It looks pretty darn cool. I know this is another game that Mike is pretty excited about.
Yeah. I'm looking at a write-up preview for it right now on Nintendo Life, and they were really high on it too. And so we were putting this together. We didn't have a name on it, and I was like, the buzz on this makes me really want to check it out. And just like the blend of the SMT with the DS graphics, with the storytelling as it is, and like sort of like horror theme in like sort of a different kind of way, I think really it almost seems like SMT meets Fire Emblem to some degree. And I'm very excited to check it out for that reason. Apparently the writing in it is really excellent. And it's kind of tough too, in terms of how difficult the game is, which I like. I'm not necessarily the biggest tactics RPG guy in general, but this one really appeals to me in terms of its blend of aesthetics and styles and effective writing.
Mm-hmm. Is anyone a fan of this particular style of demon in the modern day kind of thing, but with a tactics twist?
It does give me similar vibes to Persona.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
So it says here that like you'd also have like friendships and like apart from the story, so you have to build relationships as well with the other characters. So it does give me that vibe actually.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, like Tin says, it looks a lot like Persona, and I like strategy games. So if you're going to give me a Persona-like strategy game, I'm definitely interested. And the art style is really nice, actually. So I'm definitely interested to see how it turns out.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Well, I mean, Shin Megami Tensei is a well-loved franchise, but another well-loved franchise with an actual, I was about to say new title, but I guess new remake coming out next year, theoretically, is Dragon Quest III, the HD 2D remake, which is coming out at some point in 2023. I have heard rumors that we're going to be getting some news about the release window pretty soon, probably in January, or maybe even in late December.
I think there might be a show for it like this week, maybe. Like this is like,
really?
When I say this week, before this will post.
Yeah.
I think maybe. But yeah, Hopefully it comes out this year.
Yeah, so there's a chance that by the time you listen to this, you're going to be like, no, it's coming out. I mean, for us, it would suck if this came out, like, if it shadow dropped next week and we'd be like, it's going to have to be 34 games we're looking forward to.
That's true.
The Final Fantasy numbering system really threw me for a loop then, because I was thinking, didn't this get remade on the 3DS? And I was thinking, no, that was Dragon Quest 6. This is Dragon Quest 3. Final Fantasy for you.
No, Dragon Quest 3 got remade for the Game Boy Color, I believe. I have that game. It is great.
That's correct.
So yeah, this is going to be, I mean, Square Enix are delving in and they're going to be throwing HD 2D at their first like long-standing franchise, because all of the other HD 2D games have been new titles. So this is their first attempt. Yeah. Oh, frig, you're right. Live Alive. I completely forgot about Live Alive, which is a shame because it's such a good game.
Yeah.
Yes. So Dragon Quest 3, which is considered to be one of the best entries in the series, a lot of nostalgia there, but for good reason, because it's a damn good game, is going to be getting the full HD 2D remake thing. So it's going to be, it's going to have depth now, some beautiful pixel-like graphics. And yeah, it's going to be coming out next year. Is anyone excited for this?
Yeah, I would say, like, I'm not like the biggest Dragon Quest fan in the world. I've played 8 and 11, and I've enjoyed them a lot, but I haven't played any others. But I think the HD 2D art style is like the perfect way to remake these old games. I think like playing Live Alive just like reaffirmed that for me, and so I'm really excited to jump in, give it a go. Yeah. I
mean, I've played Dragon Quest 3 before, and I think that it has some really great story moments, and like they've said that they want you to sort of be able to play this in first before Dragon Quest 1 and 2, and he's going to try to do some different things. So I'm excited to see what Hori does with this, but like Dragon Quest is one of my favorite series of all time. Dragon Quest 3 is the thing that sort of put Dragon Quest on the map, where that sort of, old wives' tale about the kids getting school off was because of the sales of this game in Japan. So I think that it is a game that a lot more people need to experience. And also, like, there's a lot of really close ties between this game and Dragon Quest 11. And so I think it makes a lot of sense for this to be the game that they choose to remake based on its popularity, based on the fact that Dragon Quest 11 was incredible. And so many people maybe want to go back and see where it came from. So I couldn't be any more excited. I will be playing it day one or reviewing it if, our reviews manager maybe allows me to.
I think this will be a really nice throwback for long-time series fans as well, because they seem to want to be moving away from some of the conventions of the series for Dragon Quest 12, whereas they've still got the nostalgia factor for these remakes, especially with the HD 2D. So
for sure, yeah.
Great choice.
Yeah. Also, I would like some appreciation that I just let Zach's Dragon Quest 11 is incredible comment to sail over the plate without taking a swing at that one.
Oh my gosh!
Because I didn't want to start a fight.
We could throw down if you want.
So sad when I was listening to the retro Dragon Quest 11 spoiler cast like years after you guys recorded it, and I'm like, I want to be on this episode so bad because I have thoughts.
It was a positive. It was actually my first retro experience or appearance, and it was a positive panel. Yes,
it was a very positive panel. Yes, it could have used someone with a little rain cloud over their head with a little frown going. Yeah, I played Dragon Quest 3. It's a great game. It's a classic RPG. I played the remake on Game Boy Color. I think I played the NES version like decades ago. So yeah, I'm pretty excited about this, and it looks pretty cool.
I haven't played, honestly, any Dragon Quest game, but like seeing this one, the HD 2D remake, I am probably one of those who would give it a try, since I like the HD 2D style a lot, since I enjoyed playing Octopath Traveler, Live Alive, Triangle Strategy. So this one, I'm probably going to give this a try after I play the part 2 of Octopath, probably.
I mean, stealing a joke from last week's rhythm involving Dragon Quest. If you've played one Dragon Quest, you've played them all, really. There's no difference. Just play the first one. It's the same game.
Yeah.
Okay, we better move on before Zach has a little Zach attack on the other side of the mic. Let's move on to Dustborn, which is being released some point in 2023, maybe. So Dustborn is one of those games that has been, the release date has been getting pushed every single year since it was announced in 2020. But that being said, it looks like it has a pretty good chance of being released this year. It also looks terrific. So it takes place in like a parallel reality future setting where the United States has, I guess, fallen, and the disunited States of America, and it's a road trip kind of game. The pedigree behind it is quite amazing. Like some of the devs are, worked on The Longest Journey and Dreamfall, Quantic Dreams, Heavy Rain, Detroit Become Human. They're set to publish, so it has a pretty good pedigree behind it. And I have to admit, I am pretty excited about giving this one a shot when it comes out, because it looks like it really hits a lot of my buttons.
This had completely gone under my radar until we were preparing for this very podcast, and this is amazing to see the devs behind this, like a collaboration between devs from The Longest Journey and Dreamfall, two games I love, and then Quantic Dream. Like, wow. This could shape up to be something really impressive, I think.
I think so too. I hope so.
I hope so as well. I think there were probably a few lessons to learn from Heavy Rain and Detroit Become Human. So maybe that's why a collaboration with Red Thread Games, very well known for their storytelling, or at least the games that they've, released have had fantastic stories. So it could be a match made in heaven.
Yeah. I was gonna say that I have high expectation for the story for this one.
They make great lead characters.
Mm-hmm.
It does. It looks very, very story driven, with some fascinating characters. So, I mean, fingers crossed. Hopefully, it comes out this year. I would very much enjoy if it did. Moving on. Hey, Zach, do you want to take this one?
I guess. Aiden Chronicle, 100 Heroes. Oh my goodness. I'm guessing, given our audience, that almost everybody who's listening to this podcast is excited for this game. But hopefully not as excited as I am, because I don't think it's healthy how excited I am for this game. I think it's probably a bad thing. So, I played Rising this last year, and I think that the reception to it was sort of up and down, which is like a prequel, like sort of a Metroidvania-ish game.
You liked it.
Yeah, and I liked it. I liked it more than most. But the thing that excited me the most about it was that it set up, from a storytelling perspective, like a really interesting world that I think a larger scope story. And Rising was pretty small in its scope in terms of what we can look at. But obviously, like, the Suikoden influences are huge. You can see Suikoden 2 like writ large all over this game, which is my favorite game of all time. So of course I'm excited. It looks beautiful. Everything that we're seeing about it is great. I love that it has inspired Konami to go back to a long dead franchise and do some things with it.
Which we'll be talking about a little later in the podcast.
Yeah, long on the record as being incredibly excited about this game. I think that it is shaping up to be really something fantastic. I was hoping we'd have a release date by now, but I'm guessing that we'll get it sometime in the first half of the year based on everything we're seeing. So
let's toss out our usual some point in 2023.
Yeah, exactly. I don't even know what to say. I'm very excited.
I think aside from it inspiring Konami, it's had a really good impact on crowdfunding for other titles as well. It's given older studios that sort of inspiration to say, hey, maybe there is space for our games again.
Mm-hmm.
Such as Penny Blood and
Armed Fantasia.
I'm pretty excited about this as well. I mean, Suikoden 1 and 2 are incredible games, and this looks like an evolution of that. And if they bring back that formula with the same town/castle building mechanics, which honestly is my favorite part of these games. I just love building a castle. It does it so well. And maybe with a more modern frame, we might be able to get a little bit more character development with some of the theoretical 100 heroes that are going to be living there.
I mean, they do a pretty good job of character development in Suikoden 5, but that also made the game very long. Like Suikoden 5 is like almost 100 hours, like 80 or 70 or 80 hours. But yeah, I mean, I think that I actually honestly don't think that I've ever anticipated a game more than I am anticipating this one. So that's where I stand on it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, unlike you guys, I haven't played the Suikoden franchise, but I will this year. I'm sure we'll get to that later. Yeah, I think this game just looks awesome. Like the screenshots are just like, it's almost like HD 2D, but its own kind of take on it, and I think it just looks stunning. And obviously, it has huge pedigree behind it, and I think whenever you sort of on socials, anything like that, it is definitely one of the most anticipated games, like within like JRPGs at the moment, I think, for sure. And I'm really looking forward to playing it.
Yeah, the fact that it's not HD 2D, but it looks a little bit like it. It's inspired
they
by
just
it.
Can't call it that because Square Enix has a copyright on it.
Yeah, exactly. But it's clearly inspired by. Well, Square Enix has a copyright on many things. There's a very awkward transition, but I'm going to go with it, including one of their, the Final Fantasy series. And next year, it looks to be a real good year if you're a Final Fantasy fan. I mean, we're not getting a sequel to Stranger of Paradise, but we are getting apparently a sequel to Final Fantasy VII Remake, and that is going to be Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Now, it's on this list. The release date window right now is winter 2023, maybe early 2024. We don't know, but that's good enough to put it on the list. I mean, it's Final Fantasy VII Remake 2. Obviously, people are super, super excited about this game.
I mean, I think I'm more excited for this than I was for the first one. And I actually, having played the first one, have some criticisms of some of the directions that they're going with it. But I can kind of put those aside. What I'm really interested to see, because Midgar, I was like, okay, I can see how you can make this sort of a corridor-driven game where you're sort of like going from one spot to another. And it made sense because it's Midgar, right? Mm-hmm. But here, I don't know how they're going to approach it. I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know. And as much as I have problems with what they've done at the end of part one of Remake, it does make me excited to see some of the directions they're going to go here. I want to know like how far along we're going to get. The fact that we know it's a trilogy at this point means that they're going to have to move pretty far forward in the story insofar as we know it at this point. And, the Remake was a phenomenal game. The combat was excellent. It's unique in its own way. The storytelling, for the most part, was great. The way they fleshed out some of these characters who we've loved for so long, but still stayed true to who they are, I thought was phenomenal. So I have a lot of faith in this game for being excellent. And I'm very much looking forward to it.
Mm. Yeah, like Zach, I'm really looking forward to it. I think my only, not necessarily a concern, but something I'm just more interested in is obviously Midgar in the original game is quite a short segment of the game, and we know that we know now that this is going to be like a 3-part project. So I'm quite interested in seeing how they put. I mean, I know they're going to go in a different direction, but assumedly it will be along the same lines. How they're going to fit the rest of the game, which is still a lot of the original, into 2 games. Are they going to be like the same length as the remake, or is Rebirth going to be like a lot longer?
Yeah, the joke I made when it got announced was I thought Final Fantasy VII Remake, Rebirth, and Recycle.
I mean, my honest guess is that they're going to go in a pretty different direction at the end of part 2. I think some significant things are going to change. I think, and this is pure speculation, like end of disc 1 stuff, which I guess I don't want to spoil a 25-year-old game, but end of disc 1 stuff I think is going to be pretty different. And I think that will set a course for the game finishing faster than it did. I'm guessing we're going to end right around where disc 1 ends, is my guess.
I have a feeling that for this part 2 of the remake is that they might change a few things from the original. That's what I'm actually looking forward to.
I think so too. I think that part of the reason why I think Final Fantasy VII Remake was so successful is because they didn't have any golden calves. They didn't have any. They held nothing sacred. They decided, let's tell a story that is inspired by Final Fantasy VII and still holds to the characters and things like that, but we can do our own thing with it and expand the storytelling, which I think is what you have to do with a remake, unless you wanted to make it feel like it's retreading old ground.
Mhm.
And I still haven't played it, but from everyone I've talked to, including many on the podcast, Final Fantasy VII Remake did not feel like a retread.
Oh, no. I mean,
Yeah.
it's so more fully fleshed out, and the ending
Mhm.
of the game definitely puts it in a position to go in a very different direction. So it could, but we'll see.
I think
I
as
feel
well.
there are many aspects. Oh, go on.
No, you
first.
go ahead. You go ahead.
Okay, we're so British, aren't we? I think the way stories were told in games back in the day is very different to how stories are told these days. So I think, they were very sort of literal in their progression back then. Like, oh, we need to go here. So to get there, we need to take a boat here. Then we need to run across this plain and cross a mountain. Whereas they don't need to necessarily do all that these days. It can be more about like destination rather than journey. So I think they will probably change a lot of the story elements still, but I think they can condense a lot of it as well without changing necessarily too much.
And it looks real good.
Yeah, they never fail on that.
Yeah, I'm hopeful that they give it a bit of a texture upgrade. As I understand it, some of the textures were a little bit last.
They looked a lot better with the PS5 update.
Integrate and stuff looked really, really good.
Yeah.
That door.
I'll never forget the door.
No, really that.
I think as well, though, it's going to be interesting to see where it goes. I think it's quite, well, I'll say clear, but it seems like Zack is going to be a much bigger part of it going forward. I think there's obviously a reason.
Will I? Really?
But there's a reason they're bringing out the Crisis Core Reunion remake, and I think Square clearly wants people to understand Zack's story before moving on to part 2.
Yeah, Crisis Core just got released. Bob did the review. It's up on RPGFan right now if anyone would like to read it. And I guess the ball continues to roll when it comes to Final Fantasy, because one thing we do know for a fact we're getting, unless something completely unexpected happens, is Final Fantasy 16 releasing on June 22nd of 2023. So 16 is, I mean, for God's sake, what can you really say? It's Final Fantasy 16. Tin, you wrote up the blurb about it. What do you think about Final Fantasy 16?
Honestly, this is like the only reason why I wanted a PS5 back then. When this game was first announced, I was like one of those who was, I don't know, shocked, I guess. And I was so excited. I was waiting for this game for this year. I thought it'll come out this year because like Yoshida was like saying it's almost finished and it'll come soon, but then it got delayed and now it's finally happening. So I just can't wait. I honestly just can't wait.
I completely understand that. This is the first Final Fantasy game I've seen in a few years, which to my mind looks like a Final Fantasy game. They've gotten away from admittedly cool mashups of Stand By Me and the Final Fantasy theme and, going on a road trip with the boys. And now we're back in firmly medieval, very dark medieval setting.
With all the war. And I love the fact that it's a bit dark and mature this time.
Oh, it looks super mature.
Yeah. I think it's rated something, I forgot.
And it looks, obviously, it's moving again towards the, it's still a JRPG, but the more action-oriented combat away from the turn-based combat that Final Fantasy classics are known for. Looks to be taking that to a new level. And I guess there's a lot of focus on summons in this game.
Yeah.
They look incredible. Gosh, there's like giant kaiju fights, like one summon against another. Yes, please give it to me.
Exactly.
Yeah, we just got a new trailer for it at the Game Awards, and it looks real good.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't stay up for the Game Awards. I mean, being in the UK, it was like middle of the night. But the first thing I did when I woke up the following day, onto YouTube, watched the trailer. I'm really excited for this one. It'll actually be the first Final Fantasy game that I play on release, like mainline, because when Final Fantasy 15 released, I was still in secondary school, so I did not have much money at all.
Stop.
Zach, you could have taught Tom.
That is, I actually have students now who are probably about Tom's age, but yeah. I mean, like 16 looks remarkable, right? Like and outside of everything else about it, you know, like it looks incredible. We got the DMC combat designer coming in, and DMC combat is DMC combat. We've got Soken. It looks so cool. I think that's going to set up a really compelling revenge angle from what we saw.
Oh God, it sounds so good.
But Yoshi P, that's the only thing I need to say. If you've played Final Fantasy 14, Yoshi P. I mean, like I know, like that's like idea of like sort of worshiping game developers, like all the Kojima stuff. I'm like, all right, come on. But Yoshi P is remarkable. I trust him absolutely. I think this is going to be an all-timer.
Sorry, I got a real all religions are bullshit except for mine vibe from what you just said there.
Exactly. That's exactly what I meant to say, and I'm glad you heard me.
Well, I'm actually one of the people that is avoiding as much content related to this game as possible, which I do not recommend to any of our listeners. Read all of our articles about Final Fantasy 16, but I want to go in blind.
There are going to be a lot of them.
I want the complete fresh experience, so I don't even know what any of the characters are called or anything at this point.
Mm-hmm. You're one of those people who avoid even movie trailers and things like that?
Only for very specific things, because I think the Final Fantasy series is one of those that's so pivotal and important in my life that I don't want preconceptions at this stage in my life. I want to go in, enjoy it for what it is, and then decide if I agree with everybody else afterwards, you know.
Well, the good news is you can pet the dog in Final Fantasy 16.
Yeah.
Well, that's good to know. I don't mind knowing that tidbit of information.
And the even better news is that you're going to get to play it in about 6 months, which is mind-blowing, but hey. So yeah, I'm pretty excited for this thing to come out. I can't wait to hear everyone's reactions to it. I've moved far away from the Final Fantasy mainline series in the last few years, and this is going to be a real great jumping on point for it. So pretty excited to get back on the Final Fantasy train.
Sounds like all of us are going to play this.
Us and everybody else probably listening to this podcast.
Yeah.
Well, another long-standing RPG franchise is coming out with a new game next month, as a matter of fact, in about 1 month and 10 days, and that is Fire Emblem. So a brand new Fire Emblem Engage is coming out. There has been a fair bit of buzz about the main character's hair looking like toothpaste. But Three Houses was probably the biggest hit Fire Emblem has had, probably in its history, especially here in the West. And because of that, a lot of people have their eyes eagerly fixed on Fire Emblem Engage. I'm surprised that it's so funny. Fire Emblem Awakening came out in, when did it come out? It was 2019. It was 2019, and it does not feel like that long ago, but it's been a while since we've had a brand new Fire Emblem game. So this is one of the classic tactical RPGs. And people are super excited for it. Is anyone here excited for it?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I do wonder. It seems to be fairly different from Three Houses. I'm not sure how much of that social element is going to be there. It seems to be focusing far more on the engage rings, which are like bringing back past characters. But I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. It's always good to change things up a little bit. And the reception so far, apart from the toothpaste hair, seems pretty positive.
I don't know. I think the toothpaste hair is. I think that's loving. That's a loving, slightly making fun of it, but in like a comforting, supportive way.
Are Nintendo trying to set a new trend here, though? Because isn't there a character in the most recent Pokemon games with a hairstyle very similar to that?
Yeah, Penny.
Penny? Yeah. Hot new trend for 2023: toothpaste hair.
The toothpaste MCU.
The last story trailer they released for this actually looks great.
I agree. It looks like it's going to have a strong story, strong everything, and you're right. It is going to theoretically be moving a little bit further away from the the school mechanics of the last game.
And I think the only thing that's slightly sour be on this is that they've already announced DLC for it, and it's like, and it comes as like starting day one. So unless you're spending that extra $35 on release day, you're already behind other people. Which it is only I believe it basically only adds in like additional characters. So I think the first wave is characters from free houses. But I do feel like as soon as you're launching a game, you're already like pushing DLC. It just feels a bit soon.
Yeah, it's a bit Mass Effect 3, like holding back a character that should have been in the game originally as a DLC optional character.
I feel like every Nintendo game these days releases with a DLC pass, though, doesn't it?
Yeah, Nintendo went from not really doing DLC to really being into it.
Those
like
Mario
a few years ago,
numbers must be looking pretty good.
Yeah. So it looks to be like a pretty cool game. Obviously, we're going to be covering that in, just about a month, which is, again, crazy. And just past that, actually, 4 days after that's released, Forspoken is going to be released. Now, Forspoken has been a little bit of a controversial game because it looks like a fantasy game. It looks like basically, a fantasy game, but its protagonist, Frey, is from New York City and gets tossed into a fantasy world. So it's that kind of thing. And some people don't like, crepes. What are they called again?
New Yorkers?
No, games where someone from the real world gets tossed into a fantasy world.
I know what you mean.
Isekai.
Isekai, yes. Yeah, it's an isekai game. And for the better or for the worse. That being said, it looks pretty damn good. Great graphics. It looks like a really, really solid combat experience. It's going to be some interesting travel throughout the world. I'm actually pretty excited for this. And I guess we're going to be seeing some more of it over the next month, obviously, as it gets come up to release.
Well, there is a demo on the PlayStation Store right now that you can play. From what I've heard, like the impression so far is, like you were saying, like the world itself, like is pretty pretty and the combat's great, but the world seems a bit empty. But I guess this is only a demo. They're probably not going to fit it out 100%. But it's definitely a title I'm optimistic about. I'm definitely going to wait and see what the reviews are for this one, though.
Mm-hmm. And I know this will be up by the time this episode goes up. But Scott had an opportunity to go to an event in New York, and Scott is our resident New Yorker, and he was very high on it. That was what brought to my comment.
Is that what they're called?
Yeah. And so, and he seemed to think it was really good. And, I'm a little higher on 15 than others. And so I think that maybe makes me a little more excited for this game. So I think that it looks good. I'm not sure that it's a game that I'm going to pick up on release. Kind of want to see what the reviews look like, but because there are just so many games this year. But I think it looks promising.
Yeah.
I played the demo last night, actually. And just like what Tom said earlier, the combat is really, really good. It's super fun, honestly. But the parts that were lacking a bit, I guess, is how open world it is. But then, most parts of it are empty. But then, I guess since it's just a tutorial, so maybe that's the reason why they're just giving you a glimpse on how the combat looks like. But I'm looking forward to how the story would be laid out in the game. So I hope it's actually good and it would be on par with how the combat looks like. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, up next, which is a game that has been showing up on many a most anticipated in the next year list over the last few years, is Grand Blue Fantasy Relink. This was announced in 2017. We're anticipating it, that's for sure. It was on our list for 2020, 2022. It's now on 2023.
It was also 2019. I wrote it up that time.
Oh, perfect. Okay. Well, in that case, hey, Zach, looking forward to Grand Blue Fantasy Relink?
I definitely still am. I mean, maybe not as much as Des, since Des is the one who writes it up every time now. But, it's based on an incredibly popular, sort of gacha mobile game in Japan that I don't think still we have access to in America. Just Grand Blue Fantasy. But, early on, Platinum was working on the combat, and I was like, Platinum's working on it? Yes, please. And apparently they're not working on it so much now. But, every time I see a trailer for it or anything, it looks flashy. It looks like the combat's going to be super fun. We don't really know much about it outside of that. There's going to be some multiplayer involved. We know that it looks great and it's got a great pedigree behind it. Apparently, we're going to hear more. I think Des mentions this as well on January 20th and finally get a demo. So like not long after this, we'll have a better feel for it. But just the names behind it alone and just the way that it looks making me pretty excited for what it's going to be, this sort of action RPG.
Well, seeing as that we have a very solid release date of sometime in 2023 next to it, I'm sure that we'll have the opportunity to see more of it very soon.
One can hope.
See, here's how you know we care, ladies and gentlemen. This thing has been on 4 lists thus far of most anticipated, and it's always been a different blurb.
That's
although if it doesn't come out next year, Zach, I firmly believe that we should just start reusing the same one over and over again.
We'd have to make some mild adjustments to Dez's, but yeah, sure, why not?
Just put a disclaimer off the top saying this is the same blurb we wrote in 2019.
It'd be kind of funny. I don't disagree with you.
Dates have been updated. Otherwise, the content remains the same. Well, moving on to what I would suspect are 2 of Caitlin's most anticipated titles of 2023 is The Legend of Heroes Trails of Azure and The Legend of Heroes Trails into Reverie. So Trails to Azure comes out on March 14th of next year, and apparently Trails into Reverie is going to be coming out summer 2023. So these are going to be, Legend of Hero games, which have they're incredibly, incredibly popular among RPG fans. These have been out in Japan for years and years now, and they are very slowly trickling out over time as they are localized. So 2 of them are coming out next year, which is kind of exciting.
Yeah, I think this is one of those series that, like, I don't say this to discredit the quality of the games at all, but I think with the releases of them, it just adds to the pressure to, like, I really want to get into this series, but at this point, there is so many of them that it's just like,
And you really kind of need to play them, like, not necessarily in order, but basically in order. Like, I played Cold Steel 1 and 2, and then everyone's like, oh, you really got to know some more things for Cold Steel 3. And then I started Cold Steel 3, and I'm like, oh, there are all these characters who I don't know who they are, but I'm pretty sure they're in Trails of the Sky. Okay.
Everything I see about these series, I know I would love, but at the same time,
Yeah, they're long games.
Yeah, I think you're probably looking at about 400, 500 hours now.
Mm-hmm.
The last Trails I played was still in the sky, and now I can't even remember what happened there. So I have to go back all the way to that one.
Wikipedia is your friend in cases like that, I think. Well, moving on to what I think is, okay, honest to God, I know that people are anticipating many, many games next year. Obviously, Final Fantasy 16 is huge, and for other people, Trails games, and for Zach, anything that involves Suikoden. But I think most people are really, really excited for this next game, which is Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom. Tom, you wrote the blurb for this. Are you excited for Tears of the Kingdom?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about how excited we were for Final Fantasy 16 earlier, but if there's one game that I am anticipating more, it is Tears of the Kingdom. I mean, I know not everyone agrees. I think, Zach, you're not a big fan of Breath of the Wild, if I'm right.
That is correct, yes.
But in my opinion, it is one of the best games of all time, and I can't wait to see what they do next. I was really looking forward to it coming out this year, and then it got delayed, and I thought, I know what will solve that. I'll replay Breath of the Wild, and that only made it worse. I now spend every waking moment waiting for this game. No, but I can't wait to see what they do. I mean, I think when they announced it back in 2019, like, perhaps it was a bit early. Perhaps, obviously COVID has affected some things, but I think this is, I believe, one of the longest gaps we've ever had between mainline Zelda games. And considering that we're assuming they're reusing quite a lot of assets, I think it's going to be interesting to see, like, they've taken so long to make something new when, their focus hasn't been on asset creation. So I'm expecting, like, some big things. And I think from the trailers we've seen so far, it seems to, like, just be going above and beyond.
Yeah, it'll definitely be interesting to see what they have been doing in that time, if not necessarily pumping out loads of new assets.
And it's actually surprising just how little we've seen of this game thus far. We got the initial trailer, which was Link and Zelda going through some catacombs and apparently a skeleton Ganon. And then we got the most recent trailers where we see Link flying through the sky with kind of a bit of a Skyward Sword vibe. we know it's Link going to be the main character. So any thoughts, I guess, any hopes of Zelda being the main character, I think is out the window now, which was my hope. That being said, I am not, that does not affect my enthusiasm for this game even one little bit. Also, Tom, I love the line in your blurb here that says, Zelda is the one franchise we can confidently say had its Breath of the Wild moment. Yes, we can.
You know, honestly, even though I wasn't a huge fan of Breath of the Wild, I'm still kind of excited for this game, even though I probably won't like it very much.
No, Zach. You have your role here. You're like I said earlier, you're the little boy sitting in a mud puddle with the rain cloud above his head, frowning. That's your role in this game.
Well, my memory of Breath of the Wild was very clouded by the fact I had norovirus when it came out, so hopefully this is a redemption.
Oh, that is hard.
I was very, very sick.
My memories of Breath of the Wild, I just friggin' loved it, as did, anyone with taste. No, that's not true. But some of my favorite memories of Breath of the Wild is Amanda started to play it, and it gave me a real world view into just how incredible this game is in terms of what you can do, because she was playing it not even remotely in the same way that I played it. Like, she was a hardcore bug collector. And I mean, whenever Amanda plays a Legend of Zelda game, she's always we call her the gardener of Hyrule, because she just loves cutting the grass. And this game, she played the game in a very different way than I did. And I was like, oh, this game kind of lets you do your own thing. I'm really hoping that Tears of the Kingdom does the same.
It'll be fun to see if you can still pull off so many physics exploits as well, to like shoot yourself off into the sky and things like that.
Maybe that's why it's been taking so long. They're just desperately trying to patch that one exploit. Okay. Tin, do you have any thoughts?
I only have one problem about this coming out, that it's coming out on May already. And it's just 1 month for me to finish this before Final Fantasy 16 comes out.
Yeah,
So,
that's a
We're
tight
very
time
spoiled
frame.
this year.
yeah, and I played Breath of the Wild for like how many months? I played it. I don't even know how many hours I dipped into that. So I'm pretty sure it's gonna be as long as this one. So yeah, that's my only issue. Managing my time.
It's coming out on May 12th, so hopefully you'll find the time to play both of them. Coming out, I'm just, you know what, I'm just going to take these ones because... so Yakuza is Dead, Long Live Yakuza. Like a Dragon Ishin and Like a Dragon Gaiden, The Man Who Erased His Name, both are coming out apparently in 2023. So Ishin is a full remake of the game that came out in 2014 that was never released in the West. It's updated some of its cast with more recent characters from Yakuza. The basic idea being it kind of casts Yakuza characters in historical roles. So they're still like identifiably Kiryu, Majima, but they are playing roles in this historical drama. And in this particular case, Kiryu doesn't kill anyone. Well, in this case, his fighting styles include a sword and a gun. So he kills many, many people in this game. A lot of people have said that this has one of the best stories in Yakuza or Like a Dragon history. And I believe them from what I've heard. I've seen some. It's still very clearly a Yakuza game, even though it takes place hundreds of years in the past. So I'm super, super excited for this. And I know that a lot of people are also super excited for The Man Who Erased His Name, which is bringing back Kiryu as one of the main characters of Like a Dragon. In this particular case, it is kind of a midquel that's going to be taking place between Yakuza 6 and Yakuza Like a Dragon, showing what Kiryu has been up to during this time. And the big news, of course, is screw all that. The Hostess minigame is coming back for The Man Who Erased His Name. So that is going to be like 20 hours of my time right there. And it's going to be a smaller game. But then again, they put the Cabaret Club minigame in it. So how small could it possibly be? That is going to pad out the time considerably. So yeah, 2 Yakuza games coming out this year, and I couldn't be more excited. Does anyone have any excitement for Like a Dragon whatsoever?
I feel like I've played both Judgment games and 7, and I've played a lot of 0, and I would very much like to play them. But, Yakuza or Like a Dragon is in some ways kind of like the Trails series, where I'm like, I want to play some of these more recent games, and I know I could without the context. It's not like Trails where you really need to play in one order. But like, I want to play 0 and Kiwami first, and then I'm like, well, if I played those 2, then I want to play Kiwami 2, then I want to play 3, then I want to play 4. And I'm like, oh my gosh,
Zach, I have the perfect solution for you. There was a feature that got written for RPGFan very, very short time ago called "So You Want to Get into the Yakuza
told me to play Zero
series."
or Kiwami first. So,
well, actually, technically, one of the writers told you to play Zero, and the other writer told you to play Kiwami. So,
right. And I've gone totally out of order. I played 7 first, so and I love 7. I'm
what were you thinking?
So good.
What were you thinking? I think for those who are looking for a real good jumping on point to the Yakuza series, Ishin is going to be, it's out of continuity. It takes place hundreds of years before. So that's going to be a perfect example of getting into the series, the type of gameplay you can expect, and the ridiculous number of mini games and stuff like that.
Getting to play as a samurai, it's pretty much like that alone is probably going to make me buy it and play it. That's probably going to be my next Like a Dragon game, if I'm being honest. Because samurai,
so
cool.
Looks so good.
My name is in Samurai.
What?
Sam.
Oh, Jesus.
I paused for a bit.
It took me a second, and I was like, oh, that's really funny.
I like to make these little observations.
I really appreciate that.
Okay, moving on. Sam, Tom, or Tin, have any of you played a Yakuza or Like a Dragon game? And if you have not, you probably should.
I've played Like a Dragon.
I actually bought 7, but I haven't started it yet. It's waiting to be played.
I'm in the same position as Tin. I have Like a Dragon, I just haven't started it yet.
Like a Dragon's a terrific jumping on point. It just is. And I mean, it's an amazing game.
Fabulous.
It's so good.
It's so good.
Okay, we said that at the exact same time and then repeated at the exact same time, which is your clue that perhaps Yakuza Like a Dragon is a game worth playing. Well, moving on to a collection. So over the last few years, Capcom especially has been, Konami and a lot of companies have been releasing like big collections of some of their games. And a friggin' massive one is coming out at some point in 2023, and that is Mega Man Battle Network Legacy Collection. So the Battle Network collection games were on Game Boy Advance, and they came out, decades ago, and we've seen hide nor hair of them since then. But the Legacy Collection is going to be 10 full games. Admittedly, some of these games are going to be there's going to be releasing. So it's going to be Mega Man Battle Network, Mega Man Battle Network 2, Mega Man Battle Network 3, Blue and White, Mega Man Battle Network 4, Red Sun and Blue Moon, Mega Man Battle Network 5, Team Proto Man, and Team... I cannot make out what that is. My eyesight is not good enough. Anyway, the point, and there's going to be 2 6s coming out. So it's going to be 10 games. Technically, it's going to be 6 games if you're being realistic about like the different color coded versions of it. And yeah, if you miss these on the Game Boy Advance, then this is going to be a perfect opportunity to play it. I know Solosi's excited.
It's one of those games that I've always like kind of wanted to at least try, but haven't. So I'll definitely be picking the collection up. I think it's I love that Capcom is showing love to its older games, and is still making new games unlike Konami. So yeah, I think it's I think it's great that they're releasing them when they've been hard to get your hands on.
I just finished Mega Man 11 last night for the first time.
I've heard it's real hard, so I haven't played it yet.
It's one of the hardest. Everything I've seen online, it's like, well, the game's too easy. I've beaten all of the Mega Man games before without tremendous amounts of difficulty. 11 kicked my butt.
Yeah, I've heard 11's really hard.
It's really friggin' hard until the end, of course. Once you start getting upgrades and stuff, and you can, invest in getting like nine health tanks and things like that, it becomes way easier. But yeah, the first couple of levels, real friggin' hard game. But these are very different than those.
Yeah, I just don't have anything to say about Mega Man. I've never played any of them, so...
I'm very much in the same situation.
He looks cute. Little blue dude.
A little blue dude, yeah. And there's going to be, it's turn-based square grid combat kind of thing, which is, different than, obviously, the mainline series or
Are these
X.
the ones that have loads of really screenshotable phrases in its script?
Yes.
That might make me play some of them then.
Very memeable.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes, what is it? Jacking in, surfing the web, and busting viruses.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's one of those collections that's just going to be providing a ridiculous value to people. And hopefully it's coming out next year. And I suspect that will actually come out next year because it's a collection. So it's obviously there's development time, but not as much. Okay, another game that is coming out at some point in 2023 is Metal Slug Tactics. I got to be honest, I've never played a Metal Slug game. I'm not into it at all. Who is?
Like you, I've never actually played a Metal Slug game, but for some reason, when this game popped up, I was like, right, it's strategy, it's an RPG. I really want to give this a go. And I didn't write the entry for our most anticipated, but I was the one that added it to the list. I don't know quite what it is about this game and why I want to play it. It might be the crazy sort of like anime announcement trailer that that went really hard, but it just looks like a little bit like Advance Wars, but obviously it's not. But I don't know. I just think it's an interesting new direction for a franchise that's always been, a shooter or a run and gun, So I'm really looking forward to seeing where it goes. And the team behind it have they've done some pretty good. They've developed some pretty good games before as well. I think they were, I believe, I could be completely wrong here, but I think they're in some way connected to Streets of Rage 4. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
I kind of understand though why Tom hasn't played any Metal Slug game. I mean, how old are the Metal Slug games?
Yeah, all you kids.
So yeah, but this one is looking a lot more interesting, I'd say, since this is a new take on them. Since I also have gotten used to the run and gun thing that they had in the past, so yeah, I'm also looking forward to this.
I think it looks, obviously graphically it's a gorgeous looking game. So I think that's one of the reasons it's really on a lot of people's radar. It just looks really, really cool. Aesthetics can sell a game. And speaking of aesthetics, if you are a fan of the original Game Boy or Game Boy Color, then the next game on this list is definitely on your radar, which is Mina the Hollower. So this is Yacht Club Games. They're the creators of Shovel Knight, which is still one of my favorite platformers. I think Shovel Knight is just absolute genius, and by far like one of the best values you can possibly get for your money in terms of video games. Like if you buy the Treasure Collection, I think you get like 4 games worth of pure content. It's crazy. But they're releasing a kind of looks like an homage to Link's Awakening, very similar graphic style, and it looks real good. Very pretty if you like that kind of style of graphics, which I do, obviously. I grew up with it. So I'm pretty excited for it. It's going to be coming out December next year, apparently. We hope, but it could be delayed.
I'm looking forward to this. I mean, anything connected to Link's Awakening, which is the best Zelda game, is definitely going on my wish list.
Hey, we can agree on that.
It's a love fest all of a sudden.
Yeah, I was just going to say similar, to be fair. Like, that era of Zelda games should be preserved forever.
It looks really, really cool. And they've proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that they have nailed and redefined the quote unquote 8-bit platformer with the Shovel Knight series. So the idea that they're going to take another genre, which is like adventure RPG style Link's Awakening, it's really, really cool. And they're doing their own take on it. So I think that if they continue on their streak with Shovel Knight, they're going to nail it, and I'm pretty excited. Moving on to another title that is obviously a throwback to earlier days with a modern spin. We're doing another HD 2D title, which is 2D HD title, which is Octopath Traveler 2. So this was a surprise. This got announced a few months ago now, and I was not expecting it. I don't think anyone was. And it's exactly what it says on the tin. It's Octopath Traveler 2. Promises that have been made. It looks just as good, obviously. Promises that have been made is that it might be a little bit more story focused with character development and character interactions more specifically, because that was the big letdown for Octopath Traveler 1, which was the characters, aside from like little tiny cutscenes, didn't really interact with each other a whole lot, if at all. So this game, apparently there are going to be some character interactions. It's really taking a page from its first title. Like, all of the classes are remaining the same. It's taking place in a different world, though, so it's going the Final Fantasy route, and all brand new characters. So yeah, I'm really excited to see how this thing develops. Super excited to get the new soundtrack, because the soundtrack of Octopath Traveler is just pure crazy amazing. So hopefully 2 is going to be as well.
I still listen to it.
I was just listening earlier today, so yeah.
I think I wrote about the Octopath soundtrack for Music of the Year last year.
Oh, it's incredible.
It seems like such a long time ago.
And Sam, you wrote a review for Champions of the Continent, didn't you?
Yeah, actually, I don't know much about Octopath Traveler 2. So when you said just that it's set in a different world, that was quite surprising to me, because Champions of the Continent is set in the same world as Octopath Traveler, the first one. So I did kind of assume that they were going to, make a coherent kind of world flow from the first one through to the mobile game through to the sequel. So obviously not. But I think one thing that I'm kind of hesitant with for this one is that I've seen that they're introducing, I can't remember what specifically they're calling them, but duo stories, so two people sharing a story. But I don't get the angle of why everything has to be either individual or duo. Like, who isn't going to get all 8 characters? Just put bits in that's all 8 of them.
It's the non-linear style of the original that created those issues, though, I think, which the idea you can do the stories in any order you want. And unfortunately, that meant that characters couldn't interact with each other because they might not be in your party. You might not even have met them yet.
Hypothetically, if you tried hard enough, you probably could have done it without recruiting some of the characters, probably.
Yeah. Well, that's what I meant just about who's not going to get all 8 of them. Like, I think, I really hope that this time around, there are more, not just one people, not just 2 people, like group stuff.
Yeah. And I enjoyed Octopath. I ran into a hard wall with the final secret boss.
Oh, it's crazy hard.
It's crazy hard.
Unless you use a guide to tell you exactly how to do it, I don't know how you do it.
even then, I tried a guide. It was so annoying because the final boss has like 5 bosses just before him, and I plowed through all of them, no problem at all. And then I hit the final boss, and I was like, okay, nope, I can't do this because I need to have all of the characters leveled up to the same place, and they're not.
I think I hit that same ball, and I've just like worn it off my memory.
Yeah.
I mean, I had been sort of like flipping out parties the whole game, but like unless you had Tressa set up exactly in a particular way, Alvin set up in a certain way, there's no way. But yeah, I mean, it didn't bother me as much in Octopath as some other people, like the idea of the fractured stories. I mean, it was definitely weird when you were standing in front of someone and they were talking to you like there weren't like 7 other people standing next to you. That's kind of weird. But weird. I kind of liked those Tales like skits where they were talking between each other, and the combat in Octopath is just so good. Like, I think it's glorious. My favorite turn-based combat still.
It's very slick, isn't it?
Yeah, it's fantastic. And it gives you so many opportunities to play around with it. And in some other games where like the combat is that convoluted, sometimes like the random battles can feel like they're taking forever, but it didn't there. You were still able to take things down quickly without really having to strategize like a crazy amount. So if it wasn't for like 16 and Uden, it would be my most anticipated game of the year. I loved it. I wrote a review that got me a job here at RPGFan for Octopath Traveler, so I am a huge fan, partially for that reason, but I just love the game too.
So you're probably excited about this one.
I am, very much so.
Did it really take that long for the soundtrack to come out? I've just realised. If I wrote about it for Music of the Year.
I think so. I mean, I've had a physical for a minute, so maybe it was some sort of arrangement album or something. I don't know, but I've had a physical for longer than that.
I have their 8-bit arrangement album, and it's so good.
Maybe it was just for my like personal Music of the Year or something.
That's a possibility. But there's going to be lots more music to listen to next year, that's for sure.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It's going to be a good year for Rhythm Encounter. All right, let's see. Who's a fan of One Piece? Okay then, well then, One Piece Odyssey is coming out January 12th, 2023, and moving on. No, I'll just mention it briefly. So One Piece Odyssey it's a piratey adventure kind of thing, and it looks like this game looks like it's taking a lot of nods from the graphic style and look of Dragon Quest XI. It looks really, really good, and if it wasn't attached to an IP that I knew nothing about, I'd probably be pretty excited for it, but I don't really know it all that well, so yeah, if you're listening to this and you're a fan of One Piece, then guess what? There is a game coming out on January 12th in, about 20 days that you would want to check out.
Yeah, I think that is the problem. I mean, One Piece has over 1,000 episodes at this point. So, like, if you're not already invested in the franchise, I don't think you're probably not looking to pick this one up.
No. Another game that is getting a sequel next year that's coming out at some point in 2023 is Oxenfree. So this is Oxenfree 2 Lost Signals. Oxenfree 1 is a narrative adventure game which is beloved by many. I actually have it installed on my computer right now. I always try to keep my games installed on my computer down to a manageable level just so I don't get overwhelmed by my Steam library. And this is on it. So this is one of the games that I can play in the near future, and I likely will, because the sequel looks really, really great, and I obviously would like to have this game completed before the sequel comes out.
The original has been on my playlist for a long time as well. I I will try and get around to it before this comes out. I really like the graphical style aside from anything else. And
Yeah, it looks
music.
really cool.
Yeah.
Well, next on the list is Path of the Midnight Sun, which, this is cool. So apparently this was originally a ROM hack for Fire Emblem: The Sacred Stones, and it's going to be a hybrid visual novel / RPG, which looks to be really, really cool. We cover, this kind of game on the site, and not quite my cup of tea, but I know it's the cup of tea of more than a couple of people on the site, and certainly some of our viewers and listeners. So is anyone excited for Path of the Midnight Sun?
I think this genre is one that does interest me quite a lot. And seeing that the write-up is by Audra, I love this. I love the games that Audra writes about. I think she brings, she brings a good selection of unique games that she writes about. So I think this one I would be very happy to look into.
Audra, our laziest contributor, hasn't even.
Has she written anything this year? One article?
She hasn't even reached 40 reviews this year, Sam. She's still at 38.
Oh my gosh.
I don't think I've written 38 reviews since I've started here, and Audrey and I started on exactly the same day. So there you go.
I think I've written 3 this year.
Yeah, when I think of Audra, I think of prolific is a pretty good word.
Oh, absolutely.
She reviews so much, and her writing is always so good.
Yeah.
There's never a lazy review that comes out of Audra, and I mean, obviously, as a review manager, I tremendously appreciate that.
Yeah.
Well, 2 games that are getting re-releases, or they're not remakes, they're going to be re-releases next year, are Persona 3 Portable and Persona 4 Golden. So these were, Persona 3 Portable was a PSP game and Vita, and Persona 4 was released on PC, but not on modern consoles. So these 2 games are finally going to be released on Xbox One, Microsoft Series X, the Switch, and the PS4/5. So if you have fallen behind on your Persona-ing and you wish to catch up, please check that out. Oh, by the way, the last episode of Rhythm Encounter was featuring Persona. So if you like Persona music, check that out. Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, I've been wanting to play Persona 3 for a long time, and I've had it sort of sitting on my PSP, and I'm like, maybe eventually. I think this will be the time I finally take the plunge. But Persona 4 is worth playing for everybody. It's sort of like a seminal work of that era. And more people getting the opportunity to check it out is important. And if you like Persona 5, it's not as flashy, neither of them are, but I actually think the story of 4 at least is better. And I've heard 3 is actually the best of the 3 in terms of story. So I'm excited for it.
Persona 3 is one of my favorite games of all time, and the portable version is really good, but I think it does need this sort of lift to modern platforms. I mean, from what we've seen, it does seem they've been hinting at there'll be some quality of life improvements. There are some, it's very easy in Persona 3 to die and lose hours of progress. So I'm sort of just hoping there will be more autosaves, but I think just bringing the game up to modern platforms and allowing more people to play it is great.
I think it's almost a shame that they are bringing the portable version, because while I realise, they added the extra main character and things like that, there was so much charm and so much narrative and character development that was brought out through the graphics of the original and FES. But I mean, that's what they're doing, so it's still going to be a great game.
Mm-hmm. I do understand in some ways, though. I mean, I think the original Persona, you could only control your main, the protagonist, whereas with portable you can control the rest of your party. But I do think it's a big shame that we're going to miss out on the animated cutscenes and stuff like that. And I mean, hopefully someone on PC will just mod them back in.
I would not be surprised if that's exactly what happens.
I hadn't thought of that.
Mm-hmm. So a game that's not a re-release, but is certainly inspired by classics, and this has been, I mean, for God's sake, Sea of Stars. If you're an RPG fan, I don't really need to tell you a whole lot about Sea of Stars. It's from the people who, it's from the folks who did The Messenger, which is a absolutely fantastic side-scroller / Metroidvania retro style. And this is going to be inspired by Chrono Trigger, Super Mario RPG. Tom, you wrote the blurb for this.
Yeah, I wish I was writing a review for it. No, I think you summed it up pretty perfectly, to be honest. I think it's got a fantastic team behind it. The Messenger is a really great game. It's got a lot of great inspiration behind it. And full disclosure, I've backed the game, but everything I see from this game, it's just every time it's better and better. It looks great, and I think you can see where it's drawing from games like Chrono Trigger. I believe the battle system has some sort of like tech move kind of implementation like Chrono Trigger.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm really, really looking forward. This is definitely one of my most anticipated games for next year.
As soon as Mitsuda attached his name to it, I was like, okay, all right.
Fine.
I guess I'll play
I
this.
have to. It looks real good, and it looks inventive too. It doesn't just look like, I mean, it uses pixel graphics, but inventive. Like the fast travel system looks hilarious, where it's like a giant puts you into a ball and throws you across the world.
That looks great.
Which is funny as hell.
Oh, I miss transportation like that.
Did they just say that it's coming out on 2023? Like, there's no specific season yet when?
So it was originally meant to come winter of this year,
Mm-hmm.
and then it got delayed. So I mean, you could kind of assume that means it's probably coming, hopefully, in the first half. But I mean, anything can happen. They seem like the kind of team that they know what they're doing, and quality seems like at the forefront of their like ideals. So I think they'll take the time they need for this one, which I think we're all in favor of.
I think there's a chance that this might be a game that shows up on the list again next year. I hope not, because it'd be really cool to play it this year. But if it does, it does. I think I'd rather.
There's so many big games coming out in the first half of the year.
I know.
And I still need to play Chained Echoes, so.
Yeah, I also want to play that.
Caitlin is reviewing it, and Caitlin has been talking about some pretty exciting things about it.
Oh, yeah.
So that's cool. Yeah, Sea of Stars is a game that I think everyone's looking forward to. So obviously one of our most anticipated of 2023. A game that's showing up on many a most anticipated list from RPGFan is She Dreams Elsewhere, which is going to be coming out at some point in 2023, allegedly. So this was a game that was announced 3-4 years ago, and it looks really, really cool. It's a surreal style RPG, a lot of horror, and really freaky visuals. Minimalist in a really interesting way. I think it's one of the most interesting games on this list. Kind of like I guess, I know that Undertale is inspired by Earthbound, but this kind of looks like, it looks like a cross between Earthbound and like The Curse of Oberdin in terms of its graphic style. Like it's a lot of black and white with like little splashes of color everywhere. It looks really cool.
I think this art style is amazing, to be honest. You get games that are based around the 8-bit aesthetic, but then this is taking it in like a completely different direction, which is only a good thing. I think it really pops.
Mm-hmm. It does. It really does.
I think the art style also matches the theme of this, like the story of this game. Like it gives off the feel of having nightmares, I guess, and dreams
definitely.
and all that.
It's that lucid dream kind of vibe, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
It's very surreal, and because of that, I think that it's going to be warmly appreciated by RPG fans. I know that it's a game I really, really would like to play.
Yeah, for sure.
Another game that I would really, really like to play, and I suspect I might be the only person on this podcast who's super excited about it, is Star Trek Resurgence. So I'm a huge Star Trek fan. As you've read in the blurb, I have thoughts about the current crop of shows, which might piss off somebody if they're reading it. But hey, whatever. If Quentin reads it, he'll be like, But aside from that, so yeah, it's a Star Trek adventure game that's set in the time frame of the next generation, pre-Picard, and it's a lot of the team developing it are the same people who were responsible for Telltale games. So yeah, like a Star Trek adventure game with narrative choices and character choices. I'm super, super excited. Star Trek, I think, is the genre that Star Trek is best suited for is adventure games. There have been some really, really genuinely good Star Trek adventure games. We did 2 episodes of Retro Encounter 2 years ago, last year, on 2 classic TOS adventure games. And yeah, super excited for it.
Beam me up, Scotty. That's all my Star Trek.
I'm very excited that you're excited, Jono.
I mean,
Okay.
Yeah, like I said before we started recording, I'm a Star Wars fan, not a Star Trek fan. If this was a Star Wars Resurgence, I'd be all over it. But unfortunately, this one's just not for me.
Do we really need a Star Wars Resurgence?
I was going to say, aren't we in the middle of one?
It never finished.
Whether we want it or not.
I'm a Star Ocean fan, and that's had a resurgence, so that's good.
That's good. So yeah, this is going to be coming out April 2023. So that's really exciting to me. If you are a Star fan, but you're not a huge fan of Star Trek, you might be excited for Starfield. That's going to be coming out in the first half of 2023. So this is going to be Bethesda's new opus. Yeah, right off the bat. It's been delayed for a while, which whenever Bethesda games get delayed, my thought is not, aw, my thought is, oh, thank God.
You probably needed to delay it more.
When you brought it up, just all I was thinking was, imagine the glitches.
I think that's like I am looking forward to Starfield, but I think there's so many games coming out this year already. It'll probably be a game that I give a few years, wait for people to sort of patch out everything that needs fixing, and then I'll come back to it at that point.
Yeah. When it has the Game of the Year edition.
I believe Jono and I's first experience, both of our first experiences at RPGFan, were writing about Fallout 76. I wrote about a preview for it. He had to actually review it, and I will never forget that or forgive that. I spent 4 hours with it, and that was enough.
I spent like 20, and that was a hell of a gauntlet. It certainly took the bloom off my Bethesda rose. I'm real hopeful that this is going to be good. But honestly, I'm kind of more excited for the Outer Worlds 2 than I am this, which is not coming out next year. But I'm hopeful. I'm really hopeful. If it's good, I really hope it's good. I really hope that Bethesda reclaims the crown for their open world RPGs. But there are just so many things about this game that I feel could be running against it.
I think it's just cool to see them do something different. Like, I'm not the biggest fan of Skyrim. I do quite like Fallout, but this is definitely like, out of everything I've seen from this is like the most like I want to play that.
Yeah, same here. It looks very interesting.
Honestly, I'm not much of a space person, so unless it's got fantasy and stuff like Star Ocean.
Okay, well, Zach, it's your time to shine. Why don't you take this one?
So Suikoden 1 and 2 are coming out this year again. Oh my goodness, it's so exciting. Honestly, like Suikoden 1 and 2 obviously are seminal pieces. Like if you haven't played those two, come on, go play Suikoden 1 and 2. They're available now on so many different platforms. And of course, I'm excited that they're going to look better. I'm excited about some of the vaguely HD 2D-ish stuff they're doing with it. But honestly, the thing I'm most excited about is a new translation. Because Suikoden 2 has one weakness and one weakness alone. And that is that the localization could use some work. And I'm very excited to see a new localization. But if you have not played Suikoden 1 and 2 before, this is the time to do it. You could knock them both out in less than 50 hours. Go play them.
And I'll be looking forward to seeing my hay fever goddess Vicky sneezing herself into existence again.
Yeah, this
Allergy
is
queen.
I've never played them, but I am absolutely really, really looking forward to playing these.
I mean, Tin, have you ever played Suikoden game before?
Yeah, I played 2 actually.
Okay, yeah. 1 is definitely worth going back and playing because like 1 and 2 sort of like function as like one entity if you've played them both together. And so I like that they're coming out together. I know 1 a lot of times kind of gets shuffled off to the other side, but 1 is so interlocked with 2 that I think that they're very much worth playing together. And the most exciting thing to me maybe is that they said that this might allow them to make a Suikoden 6, which I'm like, come on. You had to wait for Murayama to come back and show you that people had a hunger for Suikoden. But yeah.
Am I right in thinking Suikoden 1 is quite a lot shorter as well?
Yes. Suikoden 1 probably, I'd say that if you aren't super familiar with it, to collect all 108 stars takes maybe 20 hours. Right. If you've played it as many times as I have, you can do it in like 12. But it's pretty short. Suikoden 2, I think for me takes about 25 now, but I'd say like probably 32, 35 hours to clear it at this point. Would be about right.
That's not that bad for a JRPG, to be honest.
No, not at all.
I do like the side-by-side comparisons that they have been uploading.
Oh yeah, they're really good.
Yeah, I mean, especially like some of those like early scenes in Suikoden 2 and the way they've brought them to life. It looks so good. I'm so excited.
They're taking it from like tile-based environments to fully realized, art in some of them, aren't they?
Which is going to be very nice because it can feel the movement in the game can feel a little limiting.
Yeah, definitely.
So Zach, I know that you are bubbling about the release of these two things, and as per usual, we did episodes on Retro Encounter, and this was announced. So that's always how that goes.
Yep. Still waiting for that Skies of Arcadia announcement, but yeah.
Oh, any day now. I mean, it's going to be a good year. Okay, well, the next game on the list, it's going to be a good year for fans of RPG music, especially Square Enix music, because Theater Rhythm Final Bar Line is coming out. So it doesn't even have the phrase Final Fantasy in the title, and I guess that's because it's going to be having music from just tons of non-Final Fantasy games, including Xenogear, Nier, Live Alive, Chrono Trigger, Saga, and lots of other ones. So if you are a fan of like rhythm games that feature Final Fantasy and RPG music, this is going to be like awesome.
You know, I feel like they kind of announced this slightly too early for what it is as well, because I'll buy this, I'll play this. I love the theatre rhythm games, but I keep thinking, is it still not out? Like, why did they announce it like months ago to tease it out for so long?
Obviously, you're not around Alana Higgs all the time because she talks about it almost every day, so she's very excited.
Well, she doesn't have to wait that long. It's coming out on February 16th, 2022.
And I look forward to losing at it to everyone I play against. I love these games. I suck at these games.
Yeah, I suck at them as well. I was about to say that I'm very interested to pick this up, but I know for myself that I'm horrible at this game.
Sorry.
Well, coming out the next day after Theater Rhythm is going to be Tales of Symphonia Remastered. So that's going to be a full remake, a full HD remaster of the GameCube game.
Oh, the marketing of this one.
What about
I swear
it?
they've called it a remaster and a remake.
Yeah.
In like the same breath.
I'm pretty sure it's just a remaster. I mean, like, it looks like it's based on the PS3 version of Tales of Symphonia to me.
Yeah.
Which is fine. Like I have not played nearly as many Tales of games as I would like to have. The ones I have played, for the most part, I've really enjoyed. So I'm definitely going to check this out. But like I've heard that there's some controversy about the PS3 remaster. I don't even know exactly what that controversy is, but I've heard that there is some. I mean, what do you guys think?
I mean, I'm no expert on this, but from what I remember, the original Tales of Symphonia was GameCube exclusive, and I think
that's true.
The fact that it was then given like an enhanced version on the PS3, which never came out in other parts of the world. I know that didn't go down very well, and then especially because following that was Tales of Vesperia, which was an Xbox 360 exclusive. I'm not sure if this is the right direction I'm going on for controversial, but I just don't get it really, because they've just released it on Steam not that long ago. Isn't it on like everything already? What are they remastering? It's already in HD.
Because it's popular, I guess. I mean, I've heard that it hasn't aged super well.
No, it hasn't. It's very clunky.
Yeah, like, I want to play it, but like, do I really want to play it? Not sure.
I guess we'll find out in a couple of months.
It's a nostalgia thing, I think, this one. Like, I played it when it first came out back on the GameCube, and I won't be playing this, I don't think.
I like how your voice trails off there. Just,
well, all I can remember of the story is that like it was Final Fantasy X. Like, you go on a pilgrimage.
I love how you didn't have any qualifiers there. It was Final Fantasy X.
Yeah, it was.
Long
That's
pregnant pause.
Yeah.
Worst Final Fantasy X. Nintendo Final Fantasy X.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been getting that opinion about it too. It's the Tales games we have another feature if you are interested in getting into the Tales series, check that out. But yeah, this is not a game that I am pumped for right at the moment.
I think replaying Tales of Vesperia also put me off it, because I had lovely memories of Tales of Vesperia, and then playing the remaster of that, I was like, ugh.
Yep. A game that is coming out at some point in 2023 that I am way more excited for is The Wolf Among Us 2. Now, again, I might be the only person on here who is super excited for this title. The Wolf Among Us got released in 2013. It was a Telltale Games entry that adapted the Fables series to the adventure game genre. You play as Big B Wolf, who's the big bad wolf of myth and fairy tales, and you are the sheriff of Fabletown, and there's a series of murders that you need to investigate. And it was an absolutely outstanding adaptation of Fables. We did a couple episodes of retro on it, or we did an episode of retro on it for Adventure Game Month a few months ago. And the sequel is finally coming out. They're finally developing it. And it looks really, really good. It looks really cool. It's Big B fighting against what looks to be Dorothy and her friends from The Wizard of Oz in a much more realistic portrayal. And I can't wait for this freaking game. I was so excited because the first one was so good. Fables has recently restarted. It had a 150 issue run, including a bunch of spin-off comics, but they've restarted with 151, and it's just tremendous comic book series, and the adaptations of it have been excellent. So I highly recommend the first one to anyone who hasn't played it, and I am pumped for the second one at some point in 2023.
I'm not a huge adventure game guy, but like Wolf Among Us has always been something I've wanted to play. I was like this close to hopping onto the retro episode, and this is giving me even more reason to go back and finally play that game because I've heard it's amazing and I really want to check it out. Yeah,
it's super stylish.
Yeah, I haven't played the first one, but I think it's great to see that Telltale are back on it.
Yeah, it is. It really is. The story of their downfall was heartbreaking.
Oh, it was horrible.
There's a real good no-clip documentary on YouTube about it. If anyone's curious about what went down, and just such heartbreaking stories from some remarkably talented developers.
Yeah.
Well, we're down to our last entry on the most anticipated of 2023 list, and boy, oh boy, this is one that has gotten some buzz, which is WrestleQuest, May of 2023.
Oh,
so
yeah,
this
it is.
Yeah. So this is a it's a JRPG, but involving wrestling.
That looks awesome.
Wrestling. And
can I just point out that Abe's write-up on this is incredible. Like, everybody needs to go read it. If we had time, I would just love to read it aloud right now.
Yeah, it's wrestling is something that I watched when I was very small because my friends liked it, but it never really connected with me. It wasn't until I was older that I realized it's like, for God's sake, it's literally just comic books. That's what it is. It's heroes and villains and in front of a crowd.
It's a perfect mix for a JRPG. Like, I feel like it sounds totally ridiculous, and they have like appearances from like real wrestlers, and I'm totally into it. I'm totally here for it.
Yeah, I mean, I've never really been into wrestling, but I do think it's really impressive that like an indie team has managed to like get the license for all of these like names of real wrestlers. I think that's really cool.
Oh yeah, they have, haven't they? I just assumed it was all fictional stuff, but just reading through this now, yeah.
No, Jake the Snake Roberts, Andre the Giant, Randy Macho Man Savage. I remember these names when I was a child.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that is the list of most anticipated from 2023. I'm going to put in, just for this, not for the actual feature, but I'm going to put in a honorary mention very, very quickly, because we don't know if it'll be released in 2023. In fact, I guarantee it will not be released in 2023, but we might get an early access in 2023, and that is something that was announced at the Game Awards a few days ago, and that is Hades 2.
Oh, yes.
Oh, my
Very
God.
excited.
I did not see this coming, and it knocked me back in my chair, because I just finished Hades a few weeks ago, and it's one of my favorite gaming experiences I've had in years.
Oh, it's phenomenal. And, as I was watching it, I'm like, ooh, Supergiant, I'm here for it. And then I was like, oh, wait, this is, okay, yeah, okay.
Yeah. I was trying to figure out what it was, and then I noticed the laurels on her hair, and I was like, wait a minute, that looks Greek.
The moment in the trailer where the soundtrack comes in, and you're like, oh yeah, that's Hades.
Now, I'm not going to play it in early access. I would wait until it comes out fully, but, I might be alone in that.
Yeah, I don't have the same patience as you. I think I'll be jumping into early access.
Yeah, same here.
The way you all talk about Hades, I really need to play this game. I have not played Hades.
Oh, yeah, you do.
You have to.
It's fantastic.
It's so good, Sam. It's so good. My warning is, once you start playing it, you're not going to be able to stop. So,
Oh yeah,
might be a good game to play over the
Until
holidays.
you get at least 10 clears.
Yeah. Well, that is the end of the most anticipated games feature. So yeah, with us moving into the holidays, there might be some time to clear away some of our backlog for some of these games. I know there's no room on my Steam wish list right now, so I've got to clear some space away. But if you are looking for some holiday gifts for the RPG fans in your life, why not check out our store? We've opened a store at www.rpgfan.com/shop. And there you can get mugs and all kinds of things with our logo on it. So yeah, check that out if you are looking for presents for anyone. Please check out the past episodes of Random Encounter. We have a lot of them, but we have a lot of other podcasts as well on the site. So we also have Retro Encounter, and this month of Peace and Joy is going to be brought to you by a number of Xeno games. So they're going to be covering those. We also have the companion piece to this episode, coming out in a few weeks, which is going to be a look backwards at 2022. Oh, And do not forget to check out the Muppets episode of Retro Encounter that Solosi, Greg, and I did. It might be some of the most fun I've had on a podcast in years. It was so fun. We cast Muppet versions of Final Fantasy VI, Final Fantasy VII, Yakuza, and Mass Effect. And it was so much fun. And I'm so proud of some of the casting ideas we had. So check that out. We also have Rhythm Encounter, which is RPGFan's music podcast. So we just had the Persona episode out last week. And coming up after this episode, which should be coming out next week, is the final Rhythm for 2022. And that's going to be our Music of the Year episode. It's going to be coming out the day after Christmas, also known to our Canadian and UK listeners as Boxing Day. I don't think Americans celebrate Boxing Day.
We do not.
Yeah,
didn't even know what it was until like last year.
I did not know that.
Yeah, it's I think it's just a UK and former UK colony thing.
An educational podcast.
Yeah, so Boxing Day is going to be coming out on Boxing Day. So that's the Canadian and UK present to you Americans and everyone else around the world. If you'd like to get in contact with us here at Random Encounter, you can fire us off a message at podcast@rpgfan.com. Love to hear from you. If you have any ideas for future episodes or discussion questions or just some thoughts about the show, just please fire them off my way. If you'd like to send me an email personally regarding Random Encounter or anything involving reviews or the site in general, you can do so at jlogan@rpgfan.com. However, I am not the only person who has an online presence on this podcast. Tin, where can we find you online?
Oh, you can just really find me on Discord in RPGFan. And I'm always online there, so yeah.
Awesome. And Tom, where can we find you?
Yeah, the best place to find me is probably Twitter, which is my handle is @VoicelessTom.
Cool. Sam, where can we find you?
I am also on Twitter with the most annoying username ever, Hologram Smam, because one of my friends used to call me Smam, and Hologram Sam was taken, so it's Hologram Smam.
Excellent. That is, I love username origins like that. And Zach, where can we find you online?
I am decidedly less online. You can find me, the best way is probably email zachw@rpgfan.com, or you can find me occasionally on RPGFan's Discord at zachw.
Cool. If you listeners enjoy this podcast, please share it with your friends. You can help us get the word out there. You can rate us on iTunes or your other podcast player of choice. Zach, Sam, Tom, and Tin, thank you so much for giving me your afternoon and evening to talk about all these games that are coming out next year. Super, super excited about all of them.
Thank you
Yeah,
for having
thanks
me.
for
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, we'll be definitely talking about a lot of these on Random Encounter and on RPG Fan next year. And to everyone out there listening, have a wonderful holidays, and whatever you're playing, have fun.